I was actually in the high school marching band as an 8th grader.
Oh, man.
So I did junior high and then the 1 year, but it was actually my 8th grade year, and then after that, I stopped. I also played the trumpet. So
Man, we
I
should
can't
get the band back
I
together.
can't I can't tell you I can't even tell you any notes
Me
anymore,
either,
but
man. Me either. Hey, that's probably for the best. That this was the time you probably remember this, John. This was like right when American Pie came out, and so everybody thought that the old band camp joke was around,
but
and yeah, yeah. So, anyways, I did it for 2 years. I actually had a good time. I was in junior high band as well, and then eventually, marching band for 2 years. Met a lot of people. Dated the same girl for almost 4 years who I met in band, and yeah, I built actually my one of my best lifelong friends I met in band, and still to this day we're still super close. And in hindsight, probably would have done it more, but uh,
yeah.
didn't happen. So
No, it's
yeah,
no, it's just so funny,
that's
I get
hilarious. Played the trumpet as well. So
yeah, I get on here with people and I'm like, "Man, we got some similarities," and
yeah, yeah,
so that's cool. So you graduate, high school, you're doing some sports, things like that. You graduate high school, um, go off to college. What did you go to college for? What was
So
kind of
man,
the
I'll tell
focus?
you. So I actually did really well academically at school. So out of 365 people, I was ranked number seven. I always wanted to be in top five. I'm super competitive, and I could never pass Jessica Pemberton. Darn it! And
Still remember the name.
I do.
Yeah,
And so I did well academically. I applied to Ohio State. I applied to Fisher School of Business to enter as a freshman. I got in. I was excited. It was the only college I applied to. Born and raised a Buckeye, and I have a story about how I ended up attending DeVry. I went to DeVry, and I actually skipped. So I wasn't the best behaviorally. I was academically good. I wasn't the best behaviorally. I skipped the DeVry presentation. They came to our school, and I got caught in the hallway. And my punishment was they made me go to this presentation and listen to why we should go to DeVry. I remember thinking, hey, I'm going to Ohio State. Who cares? And so I go, and in my competitive self, they said that you can finish a 4 year degree in 2 years and 8 months if you work your butt off. And I thought, man, I don't want to be in school for 4 or 5 years. I planned on living at home. I'm also very frugal. And so I thought, hey, I live, 15 minutes away. I'll commute to school. But I thought, man, if I could be done with school in, 3 years, basically, then I can get out into the workforce. And so I went to school for accounting, which is, yeah, 5 minutes into this podcast, can you imagine me as an accountant? It was
oh
a
my
very
gosh.
bad fit. I absolutely hated it. I switched to finance, hated finance, ended up transferring to entrepreneurship. When I say transferring, I mean switching my major.
Sure.
And there's that entrepreneurship, right? So I'm in school, and DeVry was not cheap. So they couple your speed with a lot of money, and I was paying for my own school. My
Sure.
parents, again, middle class family, no funds for college. It was all on me. And I realized very quickly I didn't need to like get a degree to be an entrepreneur. I kind of already was. And in my own mind, I already was. So I ended up switching to human resource management. And it came out of nowhere. We all grew up HR. It's kind of like The Office, and the stereotype is real. People avoid HR, and everybody hates Toby. And but I actually ended up going to school for human resource management. I graduated. I have a bachelor's degree in human resource management, and I graduated in 2 years and 4 months versus 2 years and 8 months. And I was able to secure a job in one of the worst economic times in history, 2010.
Yeah.
And so I was able to secure a very entry level human resource assistant job. I remember I made 14 bucks an hour coming out of college, and man, was I loaded. I had no idea what to do with all this money. I was making 6.50 an hour at Subway. Now I doubled my salary, and I was
Yeah.
living the life. And to make a long story short, and I know we're going to talk about like why real estate, but I'll never forget my very first day in human resources. I graduated. I'm wearing a silly button up outfit and stuff. I'm so excited. My very first task as a human resource assistant was filing papers, and specifically filing all of the raises that had just been processed at the last merit cycle. So the whole company got a 3% raise, and they did it on paper at the time. And so I had to put each one in the employee personnel file, basically like, hey, this person used to make 50 and now they make 52. And I put it in their file.
Yeah.
So I did that for the whole company. And my boss asked me to do that because he wanted to get the allure of the salaries out there. Because I'm a young kid, basically. He just wants to get it off the table.
Right.
And I remember thinking, man, this took all day. I can't believe my first day is done. And I go back to my desk and I look at the clock and it's 9:04 a.m. And I think to myself, oh my God, I feel like I've been here for 8 hours. And I've been here for an hour and 4 minutes. And I'll never forget thinking to myself, there is no shot in hell I can do this the rest of my life. And it was it was a weird feeling because I just paid, 60 grand for 2 years of school and I was all gung ho. And I remember in the first hour, just outside the first hour, I knew, man, I knew that um, I had maybe chose the wrong path. I go back and forth about whether or not I chose the wrong path because having a college degree, having a salary, opened up a lot of opportunity for me,
Yeah.
specifically in my investment business. And so I can't call it a waste or a mistake, but I just remember thinking like, oh, I got to tell my dad someday that this was a mistake, or this is
Yeah.
something I
Yeah.
don't want to do anymore, I guess. And so, yeah, I know we have a segue into my real estate career, but that was a moment that I'll never forget in my whole life. Was going back to my desk and at my computer in the right hand corner, I saw the time and I thought, is this computer not working? And I just thought, I'm in big trouble. And
Yeah.
uh, the rest is kind of history.
It's like I said, it's so crazy when people come. I went to Ohio State for accounting. Quickly realized that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I failed calculus. So then I switched to sports, and at Ohio State it's sports and leisure studies, but it's really, your two options are gym teacher or, really the going into the professional sports field,
Right. Right.
and I quickly realized as soon as, when I was actually looking at potential jobs in 2011, I graduated in March of 2011, I was going to be selling season tickets, right, for the Blue Jackets crew, somewhere in Iowa for a single A baseball team, or, and I was like, there's no way I want to work 60, 70 hours a week making $12 an
Yep.
hour
Yep.
and go up the corporate ladder. So I didn't even entertain it. I just jumped into real estate. So it's so funny, when I have people on, I hear those stories, and, I don't say it's a mistake, right? It's, hey, I'm glad, I went down that path because it led me to here. So
That's a great way to say it, man. I mean,
yeah,
I've long pondered where would I be in my real estate career if I would have like just never went to college, or that
yeah,
day I quit my job and I go become a real estate agent or whatever. Um, but all paths lead to where we are today.
yeah,
And at the end of the day, like I love my life and I love where I am. And if that's what it took, you know, the punchline here is I actually ended up working almost 10 years in human resource management.
that's what I was
And
going to ask, is if you scaled
yeah,
up, if you went up the corporate ladder there, or just worked your way at different companies.
yeah. So I did about 4 years at that company, and I left there I left it just around the age of 25. I was a plant HR manager. So there was plants all around the company, all around the country. It was a manufacturing facility that made stuff for Honda,
Okay.
and I went there, and I was just like, I got to try something new, and I ended up going to L Brands, so Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body, and I went there. I worked there about a year and a half. Man, is that company big? It was an awesome company. It wasn't for me. It was huge, and but I really liked retail. I liked the environment. I liked even the product, not the women's underwear, but like just the having something tangible that like
Right.
we could use, like candles at Bath and Body Works. Whereas my last job, it was we were making fasteners to hold seats together. It's like, geez, that's real exciting. And so I ended up going to DSW, the shoe company, and I absolutely loved it. I loved every second I was there. That company made it very hard for me to make the decision that I did going into real estate full time. And so when I left HR, it was April 12th, 2019. So I'm about to hit my 3-year anniversary.
Nice.
And
Nice.
I was the regional HR manager for the Northeast division of DSW. So I had about 110 stores that I supported from Maine all the way to Atlanta. And so I traveled a ton, and it was awesome. I mean, it was great. It was every person's dream. I got, free travel. I had a paycheck every 2 weeks. I had corporate benefits and vacation and all this stuff. Um, but what's missing from the story was, after I had my oh crap moment in HR, almost 10 years before that, um, I looked for an out, right? Like, okay, day one, I know this isn't for me. Rather than hitting the panic button and just going into real estate full time, or doing something else, I should say. I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I looked at, like, okay, what interests me? And the options at that point, this was before, real estate was so big in Columbus, was to be a realtor, which my best friend was. He had become a realtor. He did it right out of college. I'm sorry, right out of high school. So he had been a realtor for almost 3 years at the time, or be an investor. And remember the timing, where 2010, 2011, you remember Columbus 10 years ago, it was much different. And so, realtors weren't doing great because it was a huge difference in the market. And so ultimately, I decided to be an investor. I thought, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't want to be a realtor because it's tough right now. And so I chose the investment route. And over the course of my 10 years in human resources, it was close to 10 years, like within a month off. So I'm just going to call it 10 years. Over the course of 10 years, I built a rental portfolio. I did some flips, and I still do some flips and these kinds of things, but I focused on buying discounted properties, fixing them up, and putting a tenant